Hello and welcome to this WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Kate Fisher, and in this bulletin we'll get you a roundup on stories developing around the world. First up, a look at the headlines. US intel shows a build-up of Russian troops to prepare for a rapid, large-scale push into Ukraine from multiple locations if President Vladimir Putin decides to invade. Austria returns to a national lockdown as protests against new coronavirus restrictions spread across Europe. The German health minister issues a stark warning as the country races to contain coronavirus spread. Most Germans will be vaccinated, cured or dead from COVID in a few months, says the health minister. A vehicle ploughs through barricades and into a Christmas parade, killing 5 people and wounding at least 40 others in the US state of Wisconsin. Beijing once again refuses to address international concerns over tennis star Peng Shuai's well-being, insisting it is not a diplomatic matter. In an attempt to switch away from high-polluting vehicles, Britain is to make electric car chargers compulsory for new buildings in England. At least 5 people have died and over 40 have been injured after a vehicle ploughed through barricades into a holiday parade in Wisconsin. According to police, a red SUV drove through the annual holiday event. Videos posted on social media showed the car zoom past spectators right into the heart of the parade. Witnesses say it sped into a school marching band. In another video, the police appears to open fire at the red SUV as it sped towards the marchers.
An officer did discharge his weapon at the suspect vehicle to try to stop the vehicle. No bystanders were injured as a result of the weapon discharge. The officer involved has been with the department for 6.5 years. At this time, we do not believe there's any shots that were fired from the vehicle. We believe that officers discharged a firearm to stop the vehicle because the vehicle went through the barricade.
According to the police, the suspect's vehicle has been recovered and a person of interest is in custody. Police say there are no further threats. Schools will not open on Monday and roads will remain closed as investigations into the incident continue. State lawmakers have reacted to the incident, calling it horrific and heartbreaking. An eyewitness to the events recounts the ordeal.
After I got closer to the scene, I saw people on the floor. That was the moment I stopped filming because I was really disturbed to see all the people there bleeding and screaming in terror. When I got closer to the scene, I also heard some gunshots. People started getting even more scared and running away desperately. I went a bit further down to see what had really happened. And already a lot of people were injured and were being assisted. Unfortunately, a lot of children were involved in this incident.
Well, for the latest, let's go across to WION correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's joining us live from New York. Susan, what more can you tell us about this?
We're still desperately waiting to find out what the motives was of this horrific incident that happened shortly before midnight in this small town in Wisconsin. Police have confirmed that they do have a person of interest in custody. However, they have not confirmed if any arrests have been made and whether or not that person of interest is in fact the driver of the SUV or not. According to eyewitness accounts and at least one correspondent, the person has been identified to be a black male in his late 30s. However, we're waiting for official confirmation on that. The police chief, Daniel Thompson, said that he's working with the county's medical examiner's office to identify the victims' children among them, and possibly we will wait to see if there will be a confirmed press conference later this afternoon to learn more. City Hall remains closed. Businesses in the area will remain closed until later this afternoon, and we'll wait for those updates as they come in. But definitely a horrific incident indeed, and perhaps the most important thing right now on everyone's mind is why and what the motives were.
Yeah, absolutely. And what have local people been saying? Because there must be widespread shock over this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, you know, something like this, unfortunately, has happened before. These incidents, not only in the United States, where vehicles plow through crowds, have happened. But, you know, a small community like this, they basically say that they don't think that it ever happens to them. Individuals don't think that it happens to their community. And when it's so tight-knit and close, they're always concerned that it's going to be someone that they know. But mostly also, you know, coming out of a lockdown, a parade after such a long time, the parade was titled Joy and Comfort. We can just take it from there, and then, you know, having their law enforcement, their first responders, and other who really took the burden of these COVID lockdowns to sort of have them celebrated and honored in this parade, and then have something like this happen to them. They're traumatized. They have, you know, they're just shock and awe. You know, you can imagine what they're feeling. And again, you know, Wisconsin has been in the headlines, and so it's it has a backstory sort of in that sense as well.
Susan, thank you so much. The United States is witnessing the biggest decline in birth since 1973. A survey by the Pew Research Center found that 44% of American adults say they do not want a child because the future seems too bleak. In a survey of almost 4,000 adults, 44% of non-parents between the age of 18 to 49 said they simply don't want children. That's a 7% increase from the 2018 results. More and more adults are citing a multitude of reasons as to why they're skipping parenthood. Let's have a look at some of them. Out of the no kids group, 56% said that they just did not want to have any children. 43% cited other reasons, with medical and financial being the most common at 19 and 17% respectively. 9% said the state of the world was too bleak for them to want children, and 5% mentioned the effects of climate change as a reason. The survey found that men and women were equally likely to say that they would probably not have children. According to the census, as of 2020, the average US household size is 2.53 people, which has decreased by almost 1% compared to 1960. Many reports suggest that fertility rates in the US are also decreasing due to a public health and economic crisis caused by the pandemic. In 2020, only 3.6 million babies were born, a 4% fall, which according to the CDC is the largest decline since 1973. The US birth rate dropped 8% 9 months after the COVID emergency was declared. In 2020, 25 states had more deaths than births. American household income has also significantly decreased since the start of the pandemic, and that's the first in 10 years. Over 37 million people lived in poverty in 2020, which left many without the financial ability to have children. The last time America saw average income fall this significantly was in 2011, after the 2007-2009 recession.
But now, see, the thing is,
After days of global outcry over her well-being, Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai finally appeared in public. But the worries aren't going away. A stream of photos and videos purporting to show a smiling Peng going about her life in Beijing have surfaced on Twitter. It was followed by a video call between Peng and IOC President Thomas Bach, during which Peng repeatedly said that she is safe and well. But the WTA says that videos released do not alleviate or address its concern about Peng's well-being. In a statement, a WTA spokeswoman said that the video does not change WTA's call for a full, fair and transparent probe into allegations of sexual assault by Peng against former Vice Premier Zhang Guoli.
Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai had a video call on Sunday with the president of the International Olympic Committee and told him she was safe and well, the IOC said, after Western governments expressed mounting concern for her well-being. Images of Peng at a children's tournament in Beijing published earlier in the day had done little to quell unease following a nearly 3-week public absence after she alleged that a former senior Chinese official had sexually assaulted her. In a statement, the IOC said Peng began the call with its president Thomas Bach by thanking the Olympic organization for its concern. It added that Peng, quote, explained that she is safe and well, living at her home in Beijing, but would like to have her privacy respected at this time. Current and former tennis players from Naomi Osaka to Billie Jean King had joined the call seeking to confirm she was safe using the social media hashtag #WhereIsPengShuai.
The whole community, tennis community, needs to back her up and her family and make sure that she's safe and sound.
World number 1 Novak Djokovic said it would be strange to hold tournaments in China unless the, quote, horrific situation was resolved. On November 2nd, Peng posted on Chinese social media that former Vice Premier Zhang Guoli had sexually assaulted her several years ago. Neither Zhang nor the Chinese government have commented on her allegation. Peng's social media post was quickly deleted, and the topic has been blocked from discussion on China's heavily censored internet. The concern over Peng came as global rights groups and others have called for a boycott of the Winter Olympics in Beijing in February over China's human rights record.
Europe is facing a resurging wave of COVID-19 infections. Countries, one after the other, are going into a lockdown. This has prompted protests in several EU member states and in many cases incidents of violence. Starting with the Netherlands, the country has been witnessing 3 straight nights of protests against COVID restrictions. On Sunday, riots broke out across the country with angry mobs clashing with police. 5 police officers have been hurt and 64 people detained in 3 provinces. The latest sparked after the government imposed a 3-week partial lockdown. Strict measures were put in place after the Netherlands reported a record spike in cases. Bars and restaurants are not allowed to stay open post 8 p.m. and crowds are banned at sporting events. Protests also broke out in Belgium. Around 35,000 people took to the streets in Brussels to protest against restrictions imposed by the government to curb a rise in cases. Protesters and police clashed, with protesters throwing smoke bombs and fireworks. Police resorted to using tear gas and water cannons in some cases to disperse demonstrators. Belgium tightened its COVID restrictions last week, mandating a wider use of masks and enforcing working from home. A COVID pass is compulsory to eat in a restaurant or go to a theatre. Belgium recorded over 28,000 total deaths due to the virus, and the country has one of the highest cases per capita in the European Union, at around 100 people testing positive over the past 14 days.
We want our freedom, and being injected by something that's not tested well, being not able to work where you want to work, to be where you want to be, that's not where we stand for. That's not freedom, that's not where we live. We live in West Europe, and we just want to be free like we were born.
I'm here to come in I don't know how to explain it, but I'm here to fight the how do I call it? You know, it's discrimination. People get discriminated because the QR code, you know. People are vaccinated, cannot enter some buildings because they only had one vaccine. This is the main reason we're here, you know. People get discriminated. I mean, we don't want this.
Moving on to Austria, which is the first Western European country to reimpose a lockdown. That will be in place until December the 10th and will be re-evaluated thereafter. For now, all non-essential shops are to remain closed. People have been asked to work from home. Schools will only be open for children who require face-to-face learning. Christmas markets and hotels are to remain shut. In Austria too, the new measures, including a vaccine mandate, were immediately met with protests. Over 40,000 people took to the streets in Vienna to protest against the government's restrictions. Daily cases have been consistently over 10,000 for the past week. Hospitals in the regions of Salzburg and northern Austria are struggling to deal with rising patient load. For an update on Germany, let's take a look at this report sent by WION correspondent Ryan Thompson just a little while ago.
Many months ago, the Chancellor Angela Merkel said that there was no way that Germany would move toward compulsory vaccinations, even as we saw neighboring countries like France and Italy begin to require compulsory vaccinations for certain professions. So, of course, talking about public sector work, or notably those who are working in hospitals or care homes. Germany said they would not follow such a step, but now, as they're facing one of the fastest upticks that we've seen in COVID-19 cases really in the entire story of this pandemic, well, the entire narrative is changing very quickly. Germany is worried about the situation they're facing at hand and looking across the border at Austria, which did not push for vaccinations as hard as some countries did, and now thinking it might be a bit of a different story. But so far, the official line, at least from the Bundestag and from the Chancellery here in Germany, is that is not on the books just yet, but many local leaders and some in different of Germany's 16 states are beginning to think about this type of requirement, especially in those regions where the vaccination rate is so low, like Saxony and Bavaria.
In the latest effort to impose further curbs on women in Afghanistan, the Taliban has now imposed a new rule. The hardline Islamist group has banned female actors from appearing in television dramas. The Taliban has ordered Afghan television channels to stop showing dramas featuring women actors. And it said that female television journalists must wear hijab on screen. The new 8-point religious guidelines issued on November the 21st are the latest restrictions imposed by the Taliban regime. Under the latest guidelines, channels have been ordered not to broadcast movies or entertainment programmes that, quote, insult or humiliate the principles of Sharia laws. It's been over 3 months since Kabul fell to the Taliban, and there has been a steady stream of bad news for women and girls in Afghanistan. When asked about women's rights during their first press conference following the takeover, Taliban rulers said that they are committed to the rights of women within the framework of Sharia laws and that women and men will share the same rights. They also agreed to allow women to work in different sectors, including education, health and other areas. But the situation on the ground has been completely different. Since their return to power, the hardline Islamist group has already introduced rules for what women can wear at university. They've banned most girls from attending secondary school, and they've imposed restrictions on women working in the civil service. The Taliban has also been under mounting criticism from global leaders, not including any woman in their cabinet. The regime has repeatedly claimed that all of these recent restrictions are temporary and are only in place to ensure that all workplaces are safe. Now, here's a cute story for you. A couple of polar bears have been seen frolicking after a heavy snowfall in central Canada. So we'll leave you with these sweet pictures from Manitoba. Stay tuned to WION for more global news and updates. I'll see you next time.
This is right, Arab.